If you tuned into NASCAR this past weekend, you already felt the shift. That kind of atmosphere where the tension is so thick it feels like the whole sport is sitting on a powder keg, just waiting for a spark. And here's the thing. This is not about just one storyline. There are two enormous situations developing side by side, both of them cutting right at the heart of what this sport means right now. One exploded wide open on the racetrack. The other is something far deeper that could completely rewrite the future of the entire garage. And if you have been following NASCAR closely, you already feel it. Because when things start heating up like this, it almost always means a turning point is right around the corner. So stay with me as we break down both of these stories today. Because trust me, the way they connect is something you do not want to miss. And if you are brand new here, go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe. We are still growing, and we are just getting warmed up. If NASCAR is something you live and breathe every single week the way I do, you have found your home. All right, let us get into story number one, because what happened at Texas Motor Speedway was pure unfiltered mayhem from the opening lap to the final one. We are talking about the Cup Series race at Texas, and I honestly cannot remember the last time so many drivers finished a race with this much visible anger toward each other. Let us start with Kyle Busch, because where else do you begin? From the moment the green flag dropped, something was clearly off in his headspace. Zero patience, zero give. Every time a competitor pushed back on him, he reacted like it was personal. And all of that built to its loudest moment on the final lap, when things turned physical with John Hunter Nemechek. Now you can go back and forth on who moved first on the backstretch. Whether Nemechek came down slightly, or whether Kyle pushed up. That part was not clear-cut. But what came right after? Completely obvious. Kyle drove straight into him. That was not hard racing. That was a driver who had lost his composure entirely. And the hardest part to swallow is that both cars were genuinely fast that day. Both the number 42 and the number 8 had real speed, and both of them drove home with wrecked cars and 0 points to show for it. That is a brutal outcome when the equipment was actually there. And zooming out, the bigger picture on Kyle Busch right now is impossible to ignore. He is 41 years old, and he is racing with this raw, unpredictable edge you do not normally see from a veteran of his caliber. You could see it earlier too when he got into it with Carson Hocevar for just racing him normally. Everything felt like a trigger. Everything felt personal. Meanwhile, while all that chaos was playing out, Chase Elliott quietly put his head down and drove to victory. And this was not a lucky break or a strategy win. This was straight-up pace, total control, and real confidence. And I will say it plainly right now. If Chase Elliott is truly back to that 2020 through 2022 version of himself, the rest of the field needs to take notice, because that changes everything about this championship race. You could feel it from the fans too. They were completely locked in again. Now we have to talk about one of the most surprising radio moments in a while. Preece going off on Ty Gibbs with absolutely nothing held back. Full volume and zero filter. That is the kind of raw, unscripted audio NASCAR probably does not enjoy being out there. But as fans, it is exactly the real emotion that makes this sport so compelling. And honestly, if you looked around that garage right now and counted how many drivers are actually in Ty Gibbs' corner, it would not be a big number. Then on top of that, Christopher Bell basically described the superspeedway package as a danger to the drivers when talking about Daytona and Talladega. That is a serious statement from someone inside the playoff conversation. And you can guarantee that did not go unread inside the NASCAR offices. And just when you thought Texas had already peaked, the support races delivered their own crashes and chaos, with the crowd loving every second. And Preece stepping out to publicly back her husband after everything only turned up the heat even more. So Texas was not just another race weekend. It was a pressure valve finally giving way. Emotions poured out. Tempers hit their limit. Drivers stopped holding anything back. And that leads us directly into the second story, because it gives everything we just talked about a much bigger meaning. The partnership between Kyle Busch and Childress Racing is coming apart at the seams. You can hear it throughout this entire season if you are really listening. The tone on the radio, the way he discusses strategy after races, the frustration that bleeds through even in routine media sessions. He does not sound like a driver who trusts what is being built around him. People close to the sport point to the Martinsville race weekend as the real turning point. That race, everything unraveled at once with handling problems and execution breakdowns, and something clearly changed in the dynamic after that. And since Martinsville, nothing has recovered. The number 8 team keeps falling short of matching the pace the front runners are consistently bringing every weekend. And this is a 2-time Cup champion, a driver who has spent his entire career near the front. He is not built to wait through a rebuild. He needs results now. The team did try adjustments internally, including pit box changes, but none of it moved the needle in any meaningful way. And the quiet conversations happening around the garage are pointing in one direction. There is a genuine belief among people inside this sport that this deal runs its course at the end of the 2026 season. And if that happens, Kyle Busch becomes the most significant free agent this sport has seen in years. A proven 2-time champion whose name alone gets every team owner talking. Wherever he ends up next could shift the competitive balance of the whole garage. So when you replay how he raced at Texas, the aggression and the edge make a lot more sense. That was not just one rough afternoon. That was a full season of frustration finally boiling over in front of everyone. And as a fan, that puts you in a complicated place because on one side, this tension is what keeps NASCAR unmissable. The drama, the emotion, the unpredictability. But at the same time, you are watching one of the greatest drivers of his era completely stuck in something that is not working. And when this split happens, nothing stays the same. Free agency market, team dynamics, playoff picture, all of it shifts. Texas showed us the surface-level chaos. The real story is what is quietly building underneath. And I do not think we have come close to the peak yet. Honestly, here is my take on all of this. What we are watching is NASCAR under enough pressure to start cracking people open. What unfolded at Texas was not just competitive drivers being aggressive. That was accumulated frustration from weeks of struggle finding its release point in front of a packed grandstand. When I look at Kyle Busch right now, I am not seeing a driver going through a cold stretch. I am seeing a driver who no longer believes in the car underneath him. The way he went at Nemechek, the way his patience completely evaporated across that entire race day, that is not the standard version of Kyle Busch, even by his own intense standards. And when you stack that on top of everything brewing inside Childress Racing, the end point does not feel distant at all. At the same time, Chase Elliott is gaining real momentum and starting to look like a legitimate title threat. And drivers like Preece and Christopher Bell are openly carrying their frustration into the public conversation too. That tells you this goes well beyond any single storyline. This is the weight of an entire season pressing down on the whole garage at once. So if you ask me where this season is headed, this feels like one of those pivot moments where everything starts accelerating. Rivalries that were simmering start boiling. Teams start making moves that will define the next few years. And one decision from one driver can shift the entire championship landscape. That is why I am genuinely excited for what is ahead, while also carrying a little concern. Because when emotions stay this elevated for this long, the racetrack becomes completely impossible to predict. To wrap everything up, Texas delivered full-on track chaos with hard crashes, lost tempers, and the biggest name in the sport right in the center of it. And running alongside all of that, we are watching what looks increasingly like a major partnership quietly falling apart. One that could reshape the face of the grid when it finally ends. As the schedule moves forward, the tension is not cooling down. Momentum is shifting hands. Big decisions are getting closer by the week. If you are a NASCAR fan, this is exactly the kind of moment the sport was made for. You know something significant is on its way, and you genuinely cannot look anywhere else. You can already feel it because the next time these drivers take the green flag, it will not feel like a regular race. Every move will carry more meaning. Every on-track battle will feel more personal. Every camera in the building will be searching for Kyle Busch first. What does he do next? Does he come back composed, or does he push the edge even harder? Because if the frustration keeps compounding and the results stay flat, another defining moment is coming sooner than later. And everyone in that garage knows it. At the same time, all eyes will also track Chase Elliott. Is this a real run or just a momentum window? Because if he keeps performing at this level, the championship conversation changes completely before summer. And the friction between Preece and Ty Gibbs does not just fade after one heated radio exchange. That kind of tension rides with you from track to track. Same with how the drivers feel about the superspeedway package conversation Christopher Bell started. That does not go away quietly. So what we are stepping into now is not just another race on the calendar. It is the next chapter of a season that is starting to feel truly unpredictable and honestly a little volatile. And as a fan, that is exactly why we are here. Because right now NASCAR does not feel ordinary. It feels charged. It feels emotional. It feels like anything could flip at any moment. So stay locked in, because if this is where things stand right now, what comes next is going to be something worth watching. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you blame for that Texas incident? And where do you think Kyle Busch ends up when this RCR run finally concludes? If this is the kind of honest, no-filter NASCAR conversation you want every week, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay connected.